You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to an episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, huge shout out to our sponsors. The Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma. And it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. Adding to that is the Doghouse, and so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too, but I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC, and hopefully our pups will run into each other. If you're looking for a way to make a real difference, check out Bethany Children's Health Center. They're helping children reach their full potential as a leader in pediatric rehabilitation. They're also building a new Outpatient Center of Excellence, and it's going to be a landmark right on Route 66. Want to learn more or even schedule a tour? Just head to bethanychildrens.org and click on the Ways to Give tab. That's bethanychildrens.org. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode down at Bedford Studio. It's Thunder Preview Pod, which is, I don't think we've done this. We've talked about it, but Jason Gallagher is back on the podcast because he is now 2 series in as a official Thunder fan. We went to the first game. Why is that beeping? 1 second.
Classic Mike Hearn production.
1
Just
second. 1 second.
Absolute disaster. I gotta turn this bottle around. No free ads.
No free ads. Keep rolling. We're good.
Put my phone down there.
You
committed.
are 2 series in.
Yeah.
As an official Thunder fan, we went to the Easter game together.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the last minute call. Had a great time. Cameoed in your little mini series, which is getting a lot of views right now. You've had some. I mean, you were bestowed by the towel of Gallo from Mayor Holt.
Yeah.
He graciously decided to just swipe your key to the city question to the side.
He sure did.
He's very good at that. And then Mr. Gallo himself gave you your medal for running in the Oklahoma City Marathon.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a part of the city. You bought a Caruso jersey last night, which I'm interested why the tag is still on it. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But diving back into things, man, it's good to have you back. For people watching, tell me about the hammer.
The guy gave it to me. He sells them on the internet. I don't know his name, but he does go by, I believe, OKC Swoosh.
Okay.
But he sells these bad boys and they're pretty cool. So that's all. My son took it to the last game, and he loved just doing one of these. So they're great.
All right.
Check it out. OKC Swoosh.
So since we've last talked, it's been a couple of years maybe, you have been doing some really cool things. You have dove in. I mean, your business partner, boss maybe, took a job being the coach of the Lakers. So that forced you to make some pivots.
Yeah, not boss. I just want to clear that up.
Not boss.
Never was my boss.
He's just taller than you and everybody else.
He's just taller and louder.
Tell me let's catch us up before we dive into the Thunder thing. Catch everybody up on what you've been doing since we last recorded.
Yeah. So since we last recorded, we started a podcast called Mind the Game, and it was initially with LeBron James and JJ Redick. We did 10 episodes of that. And then to my surprise, JJ was all of a sudden a leading candidate in the Lakers gig, which was an unforgettable couple weeks of my life. Getting to sort of experience that whole process with him. He was calling the NBA Finals at the time, and it was in Dallas a lot. So we were together a lot during that process, and it was just fascinating. And since then, we've brought Mind the Game back. Episode dropped today on the modern day playmaker, and we have replaced JJ Redick with NBA legend, GOAT of my heart, Steve Nash, Dallas legend, Canadian legend. Yeah, so that's kind of the situation. That's what I'm working on right now. I also have kickstarted a couple other pods. Primarily the one that I want to plug is Bird's Eye View. If you have any interest in the WNBA, sincerely, and are interested in something a little bit more than just like, do Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese hate each other, then this is the podcast for you. It's hosted by Sue Bird, who is WNBA royalty.
She's a legend, right?
She is a legend, yeah.
What's she like in person?
She is the closest person to JJ that I know. She's got that insane photographic memory, intelligence, an absolute fantastic. I don't know if I can cuss, so bleep that out. But she is just like such a homie.
Did that catch you off guard?
She's so natural. Yeah, it did, because she's like really, really. She also can be really sweet, which I think makes her a better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when it comes flying. I'm really a big fan of hers, and I think she's like so natural in the space, and the league needs somebody that's a little bit has the kind of gravitas that she has, that's able to talk about what's going on in the game. Because right now, if you just try to follow it via like ESPN or like Twitter, you're just not going to know much. There's not very many options. There are some, obviously, but there's just none to the level of Sue Bird. So I'm excited to be a part of that. I'm excited to learn more about the league because I'm, again, a little bit more casual fan of the W. So
that's Bird's Eye View podcast?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, people listening, if they haven't heard you, you're obviously prolific in the podcast space, celebrity podcast space, as a production manager. What's your title?
It depends on which pod it is.
Okay.
For
Doer
Bird's
of all
Eye,
things, just not on the microphone.
Yeah, so I do producing, directing, show running, whatever you want to call it. All of these titles are very silly. It's just kind of you just run the pod.
Jason's the guy for the podcast.
Sure.
So over this kind of, last couple of years, you've been here and doing things, and you've gotten in the podcast world, but you've also gotten in, with the mayor and Oklahoma City Thunder, and just being who you are and the passion that you have for, I'm not going to say small market things, but like the city has grabbed you in a way that it's really cool to watch from the outside.
Yeah.
Because coming in here, you grew up in Dallas and been all over, and went to LA, worked for the Ringer, and then, COVID brings you to Oklahoma City as a midpoint for you and Kelly's families. Share a little bit about the tiny little docu-series thing you did in Oklahoma City as well, which aired on ESPN.
Yeah. I mean, for that, I was more or less a consulting producer on that, but it followed the NBA playoffs last year, and they wanted to understand the city. They wanted to, do little pieces and packages on each team that was remaining in the playoffs, and Oklahoma City, it's kind of hard to talk about the team without talking about the city. I find the connection to be really, really strong. And I think I've told you this before, but like my first wow, I don't understand just how closely connected they are, is when the vote for the stadium came up. And again, I'm looking at it from like a complete outsider's perspective, national perspective, and I was like, oh wow, this is like not a good deal. And the hate that I got from people that are like, we love our mayor, we love our city, and I was like, oh, and it really struck me. It caused me to really think about a lot with regards to that. And Mayor Holt and I had a lot of back and forths about it, and I understood it. I absolutely understood it. Mm-hmm. This town without the Thunder wouldn't it just not be the same? Yeah. So the connection's really, really strong. It's less that I have a passion for small markets. It's actually more that I just have a passion for fandom in a way that, it can be very critical or cynical. The further you get into working in sports media, you can get a little bit more like, I don't have a team, I don't have a rooting interest, like when you get that close. And I never want to forget that, like, passionate fandom is what really drives everything. And Oklahoma City is still young in their fandom, so there's a fun naivety to it. It's super awesome. It's like when you see the, like, noisometer on the jumbotron, I think, like, most people are like, we got to get it over 100. You know what I mean?
And it actually doesn't.
It doesn't do anything. But I love that, like, they're the one team that when they see that, they get super loud. Like,
it's not cheesy.
Dallas is like, no, we're not. They're just a little more cynical. So
talking of that atmosphere, that fandom, you grew up a Dallas Mavs fan.
Mm-hmm.
You through and through. And last year's playoffs, Luka just went off, and he just has that ability to get fuel from an away team. And we watched it in person last year. He kind of fell on his face, and he was like spitting his blood out. I was like, I'm going to destroy you guys, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just kind of watching him, and you being such a Luka fan as well.
Yeah.
A lot happened since then, because, there's some things that happened which forced you to he's gone to the Lakers. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
Tell me about what it was like watching playoffs as a Mavs fan in Oklahoma City Thunder versus this year. Is there a noticeable difference? And if so, what is that?
Wow, that's a good question. It's not where I thought you were going, but first off, the split with the Mavs was a little bit of a long time coming for me. Living here, it's like really hard to not cheer for the Thunder. That's, you know what I mean? Just broadly speaking, it's difficult. My son's being raised here. He's going to school. His friends are very nice, but they're giving him a lot of hell for not cheering for the Thunder. And so, there's a part of him that wanted to cheer for the Thunder. It's way more fun to cheer for your home team in the town that you live in. And honestly, the Mavs and I, we did not have a great relationship even in the last, like, 5 years. And I know that's, like, a really weird thing to say. But it had been I think a long time coming, in the sense that, they would, I don't know, I've said this on other podcasts, they've taken some of my content and not, and just unapologetic, been like, screw you. They're not the greatest organization with their fan engagement. And that's something that any sort of Mavs Twitter personality, whatever, would say. Like, they kind of can't believe how bad the Mavs are with engaging with their fans. In fact, what they wind up doing is Mark Cuban gets in Twitter fights with them. You know what I mean? Like, they don't really engage with their fans very well. Meanwhile, I've got, this team that's 5 minutes away from my house that is they just care about their fans a lot. I think a lot about that letter that Sam Presti wrote to the fans in the Oklahoman, like, that was basically explained why he had to blow it up, several years back. And for someone to even take the time to engage with their fan base like that just, it matters so freaking much. So it was a long time. That's my long-winded way of saying it was a long time coming. They traded Luka Doncic. The more information that has come out about it, the more obvious it has become that, hey, we just don't really care about our fans. And that's not like that's like real.
Yeah.
And they have yet to really put a hand out. It's been months. The fans have booed. They've chanted fire Nico. They've done all of these things. And at no point have they extended a hand to their fan base to say, hey, instead they hire PR firms from New York City who absolutely don't know anything about Dallas. Like that's the kind of, team that they are. And I think the Mavs have completely lost their identity, and they landed the number one pick with Cooper Flagg. I don't think that's going to fix everything. I mean, every article I read, every tweet still, every Instagram post is just flooded with fans saying, like, fire your GM. You know what I mean? Like, they should absolutely fire. Rule of thumb, just any team owner watching right now, if your GM cannot sit in his own seats at a game, you probably need to move on.
Yeah, it's kind of a sign.
Like, come on now. Yeah. Anyway, so it was a long time coming there. And it's the difference I would say is that there's just a lot more joy. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot more joy behind this run. As I told you, it's fun to be a part of a fan base that's on this sort of honeymoon period. You know what I mean? Dallas was on that a little bit, but they had been to conference finals before. So it was less honeymoon period. It was more like, we need to win or Luka's going to catch a lot of it. Like, there was anxiety or angst. I obviously saved a lot of energy by not having to drive to Dallas every few days and lose money at WinStar. That was nice.
Jason can't drive by WinStar without stopping for a quick roll of the
I
dice.
just want to get a little Dr. Pepper, and then, if I got a 20 in my pocket, who am I?
Whatever, a lot of people stop at Buc-ee's. Jason stops at Riverwind. Not Riverwind.
How dare you?
Yeah.
WinStar.
WinStar, my bad. Thunder playoffs last year. Obviously, we're still young.
Yeah.
But what a great turnaround from, the previous 2 years of the rebuilding that we suffered through. When we went to that first Easter game, we were blowing them out by so much that you ended up Googling what is the biggest playoff defeat. And it was actually the Thunder that lost in the previous year, which I thought was kind of cool, which also kept us engaged because we didn't get there. I think it was 53 points maybe. 58. We got to 53, I think.
Yep.
But yeah, great fun being at the stadium. For someone from the outside like yourself coming in, tell me what your thoughts on the T-shirt thing is. I got mine on today. We got a couple here. A mutual friend of ours is the one who does the T-shirts.
Yep.
Shout out to Justin. But
Justin Lawrence.
What is that like, from someone who is now a Thunder fan? I mean, it's been to plenty every game since the playoffs, so you got plenty of T-shirts. Yeah,
it's nice to see them. It's one thing to do the T-shirts, but it does not work unless everybody wears them. And that's by no means a shot at anybody who chooses to not wear them. I'm saying 99.9% of your fans have to be wearing them, otherwise it looks lame.
Yeah. Especially when you stripe it.
Yeah. The last game I went to where they gave out T-shirts was actually Luka's return game back to Dallas, and I don't think anybody wore the T-shirts. I think they were like, good riddance with that one. Miss me.
Yeah.
For the Thunder, I think that's the coolest part, is just that everybody wears them. There's an obligation to wear them. There's a duty to wear them. For one, I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but he don't wear them because he's more superstitious than anything. The Thunder do better when he wears his Kicklahoma shirts.
Yeah. And I don't know anyone who's been to more games than he has. Yeah,
I know, like my brother, I know people that like have to wear a certain pair of socks. It's just the superstition thing. But I think the rest of the fan base makes up for it. So.
What's that first series? We swept them, no big deal.
Yeah.
This series was obviously a little bit more tense. Losing in the last second at home. You could visibly and audibly tell that we're leaving and just think, this is not going to happen, right? Which is sport, right? You're on edge. They were a terrible shooting game, but we won. But full game 7. What's that been like going through as an actual, we talk about you being a fan now, being on that edge, you're on the edge of your seat, watching the threes, watching people shoot, and it taking seconds for that ball to hit, right?
Yeah.
Things happen in slow motion. You've done a great job of documenting it for now. Talk about it. I mean, let's dive into it. What's that like?
I think Oklahoma City has clearly been the best team in each of their series, right? For the Memphis series, I mean, that was a no-brainer. That's you don't have to be a sports analyst to know that Oklahoma City was better than Memphis. But what was illuminating about that series was those final 2 games were actually tight at times, and it felt like Oklahoma City could just sort of mess around and still beat that team, which is, I think, a huge reason why they lost game 1 against Denver. Denver had just gotten out of a series in which, they were matched up pretty evenly with the Clippers. It was very competitive. The games came down to the wire. It took everything in them to win. And they got 1 game off and came straight to Oklahoma City. And sometimes, people are like, Oklahoma City's so rested. Man, it feels like more often than not, the teams that are rested are a little rusty. And I think coming off of a week off and 2 games prior, being able to beat a team without really taking it seriously, I think they caught a little bit of a wake up, and honestly, they should have won game 1 because that was the game where Dagnall fouled up 3. he himself owned the fact that, they probably didn't deploy that strategy like super great. I think if they had played it out, they'd have won game one, truly. And who knows what happens from there. But no, they needed a tight series. And one of my least favorite narratives in all of sports is if a series goes far or it's tight, or they should have been in that close of a series, like Oklahoma City's not for real. Like I've seen this take out there that people still don't take them seriously. Pretty much every champion has had that kind of series though, where it's like, wait, why is it going to game 7? And it's because sometimes you play down to your competition. Who knows? Also, Jokic is the best player in the world.
He's really good.
And so, I think Oklahoma City, this was like a huge turning point. My boy David Holt and I were texting about this after game 4. They won a really close game in Denver. They were down 2-1. They won this tight game. And it was ugly. Threes were not falling, all of that stuff. And it felt like last year's team would have lost that. And that's the importance of this guy right here, Alex Caruso, because shots are not going to fall. That's going to happen because the game is much more physical, right? We talked about this today on Mind the Game. Game's way more physical, so it takes you way longer to get into your actions. And so Mark Dagnall's a brilliant coach, and he's a great, he'll design whatever, but when the game's that physical, it's way harder to get into those actions because guys are grabbing, they're pulling, they're doing all that stuff. I mean, look at Caruso on Jokic. He was allowed to do a lot because it's the playoffs. It's the way it is. And so what winds up happening is that you kind of then just play a really quick switch game where you just try to get the weaker defender on you and you go. And that's essentially what the playoffs have kind of turned into in 2025. And so the Oklahoma City, they had to find other ways to win. Yeah. The consistency came from the effort, the energy, the defense. That's where it came from. Because that you can't rattle. That you can't change.
Tell me about you going to buy that jersey in the middle of the game, and your wife also did the same thing without you knowing.
Yeah, so I have to share this. So the neighborhood where a bunch of our school friends go, they rent out the box above the 300 section. They have labeled it Cloud City, which I love.
But it's also been renamed.
What's it called?
Is this the Gallo?
Oh yeah, the Gallo Mystic Park fan club, whatever. I like Cloud City, honestly. That's just so good. But my wife and my son sat in Cloud City, and I sat down low, and there was just like a moment where I was like, I need a freaking Caruso jersey. This is insane. Insane. So went, got it, and then after the game, my wife and I were looking at each other, and I saw she was wearing a Caruso jersey. I was like, no friggin' way, bro. And I pulled it out and showed her. It's just like, how sweet is that? That's the start of a rom-com right there.
That is. There it starts. Tell me about your thoughts on, someone posted a picture yesterday of Caruso and Dagnall back in the OKC Blue days. Talk about, rom-com and movie stuff. that is the stuff of movies too. Yeah. That clip where Caruso actually has a little bit of fuzz on his head and he hasn't gone full bald and hasn't embraced the OG role yet. Yeah. Dagnall's that's something that could be a mural at some point in Oklahoma City.
100%. From the Caruso side, I've just always admired his outlook on everything. We had him on. He has one of the greatest quotes in the history of our podcast. He came on our first year of doing it over Zoom. We talked about his success, his rising success from the G League into the pros. And one of the things that he said was, too many guys come into the NBA and they are going in he goes, imagine you go in for a job interview and you are talking like you want to be the CFO, but all they're trying to hire you for is to be the janitor. Too many guys are coming in trying to be the CFO. He's like, I knew my role and I need to be the best at my role. And so that outlook allowed him to really crush his quote unquote janitor scenario there, and he just grew in it. And if you watch him warm up, I mean, it's like maniacal movements. That's all. Like, that's what it feels like. If you ever watch him in a timeout, he's just like always just kind of like always just trying to like keep his body moving and fresh. And so from his side, it's really cool. And then the Dagnall thing, I mean, that is just a master class by Presti in building the culture that he's trying to build, honestly, to hire your G League coach to run your rebuild and give him the opportunity to say, hey, if you do this well, this will be worth it for you. In the same way, I mean, the entire system is built on this trust of empowering these people. Shea Gilders-Alexander, Mark Dagnall, hey, we're going through a rebuild. If you trust this process, you can be a part of something really special. And each of them did. I mean, the one thing I wish I could be a fly on the wall on is to see like these interviews with these players, or like how they evaluate talent, because they're so clearly not just from a talent perspective. It's also a personality thing. You have to be the right kind of player to be an Oklahoma City Thunder player. Like, it's just a fact.
Yeah.
I've been a million games. I've never seen a group more connected than this, from the last bench guy on down. And we're watching this in the playoffs where like real guys, real rotation guys are not getting the playing time that they normally would, and they're still up on their feet. Mm-hmm. They're still like, that is 100% starts with Dagnall, starts with Shea, starts with Presti.
Yeah. To that point, you know, with the connectivity and with the guys on the team, and seeing them just look like they're out there. And I, like, you come from a huge basketball fandom and have all this context. Yeah. I don't. And so I look at the little things that like aren't a normal basketball player.
You were the only person in Oklahoma City last year who appreciated what Luka Doncic did.
Yes.
You're the only person who was like, dude, it's kind of sick the way he like.
Yeah. Because it reminds me of football back home.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
and the amount of abuse
you
that you
fun
give away fans or whatever it is, and you're just chirping away, and that's how he gets fuel. I love it.
Yeah.
You have made some takes over the last couple of days. One being you've given Hardestein a new nickname.
It's so bad.
Should we dive into that? Well, I mean, we can even we'll dive into that. We'll also go through the roster and like thoughts on everybody, because you've had some close connection with a few of them on the podcast as well.
Yeah. Hardenstein, I love his floater. I mean, like, there's he was busting that out in New York, and they. I mean, it's just so good. It's such a good, reliable little shot that if he gets in that rhythm, that little